I'm just present with each of you right now. I'm grateful that you're here. And in this talk today about divine abundance, we'll do a few different things. I'll share with you how I discovered abundance and why I'm teaching about this. And then we'll go into a guided experience of abundance and some what I call wisdom inquiry. And then we'll have lots of time for Q&A. My experience of divine abundance began years ago after I'd already woken up to the vastness, the emptiness, and to divine love, after I'd had a heart awakening. And at that time, if you'd asked me, is there any way in which you are pushing back or not receiving love? I would have said, not that I'm aware of, maybe in some way. And so it was a very humbling teaching for me through my awakening to abundance, to find out that indeed I was actually pushing away love in the form of abundance. And I'll explain how that worked. So it's a long story, but I'll shorten it and summarize it. One day, I was having a surprising and extraordinary day of abundance of different kinds. I was having a beautiful experience of beauty. I was receiving a lot of gifts, and I was so amazed and humbled by the end of the day. It touched me very, very deeply. And in the middle of the night, that night, I woke up, and my deeply, deeply embedded conditioning was stirring. And I sat up in bed and I was like, okay, I'll just meet whatever this is that's coming up. And I began to work with the conditioning. And I don't even remember now exactly what it was that first woke me up. But what I do remember is that as I was working with it, I followed it through. I kind of broke through the conditioning as I was clearing it and followed it through all the way to the depths. And I wanted to know what is the truth behind this conditioning. And it took me all the way to an infinite experience of divine love, and then this presence in the universe that's like a fabric in the universe that is abundance. And my experience of love and abundance is that from the vast formlessness, from consciousness, from emptiness, consciousness moves its way into form, and it first moves into love. And then what I realized that night, as I was sitting up in bed in the darkness in the middle of the night, is that it also flows into an essence of abundance, into a flow of abundance, into an expression of abundance. And this abundance and this love can take any and all forms. And as I sat with it, I had questions. I had this question because part of my conditioning comes from my grandparents who were immigrants to this country. And they all experienced starvation. Many of them experienced being in camps or like German work camps or something like that. And so I had to sit with, okay, in this experience of abundance, did abundance exist even in a moment when my grandparents were starving? Did abundance exist even in a moment when my grandparents had nothing but the clothes on their back? And I found, wow, yes, even there, abundance is present and flowing. Just maybe not in the forms that we want, maybe not in the forms that we might even need. And just as with love, human beings have a choice. We can turn away from love, we can turn away from abundance, or we can embrace always what's here. After that experience that night, I decided to make a conscious intention to meditate every morning, not just with the infinite and with the emptiness, which I do, but also with love and abundance, to steep in that pure original presence, that movement of abundance every day. And in that process of steeping every day, just really resting in the emptiness and the love and the abundance, one of the things that I found was that it began to illuminate all of my leftover conditioning and my biases about abundance. And as that was illuminated, inevitably I began to see what we were containing in our culture, what we were holding in terms of conditioning in our families, in our spiritual communities. And in my description of today's class, I probably talked about money, time, and energy. And there's two reasons why I talk about money, time, and energy when we're talking about this essence of abundance. One of the reasons I talk about money, time, and energy is because it's probably the most common place where we fall into illusion, or the common places. So even if you're feeling pretty free or liberated about money, you might get tangled up around time, or you might get tangled up around energy. And the other reason that I talk about money, time, and energy is because each of these three things are empty screens. They're benign. Really, they're nothing. They're really what we make of them. They're what we create them to be. And when I saw that for myself, I was stunned. I was shocked by how much illusion we project onto these benign elements of life, and the stories that we create, the loops that we get into in our beliefs, even in spiritual community, and I would argue maybe especially in spiritual community. And I got a couple emails from several of you about the illusion in spiritual circles that money is bad, or money is evil in some way, or money is ego. It's not. It's not truth. And this can be such a pervasive belief in spiritual communities, and then we perpetuate it. We don't even realize that we're doing it. We don't even realize that we're sort of feeding this illusion of scarcity. And there's all kinds of other illusions that you might be engaged in. So when I was receiving this teaching some time ago and realizing that this needed to be shared, one of the reasons was because, on one hand, in non-dual circles, we're not talking about abundance. We might talk about love. We certainly talk about emptiness, but we're not talking about this flow of love into form that channels its way as abundance. And the other reason is because, on the opposite end, the people who tend to talk about abundance are in self-help circles, and there are no judgment on them. They're perfect and wonderful as they are. And if you're someone who's devoted to awakening, it can really fall short, because a lot of the self-help teachings are about the little me getting more, right? And my little me didn't want more. It wanted to be one with God, right? That's what I wanted more than anything. And so those teachings about me getting more weren't helping me unify with God and experience the flow of abundance. One of the things I've discovered working with my students and my clients around the flow of abundance is, again, it's not necessarily about having more. It's about being in truth with you, being in true alignment with whatever abundance needs to be in your life. So let's take time, for example. You may have a very busy life. You might be a single parent. You might have a lot of demands on your time. Your experience of time might not look like you have tons and tons of time, because it's not about having tons and tons of time. It's about being in an aligned flow with abundance through and as time, whatever that might look like for you. And you can start to see here, hopefully, in what I'm describing, that it becomes about your relationship to it. So if you have your stories about time that you're inserting onto the flow, the natural flow that wants to happen through you, then you're going to get caught up. You're going to try to push. You're going to try to control. You're going to try to manipulate the form of abundance in some way, because the ego is never at peace. And the ego doesn't really know necessarily how to be in flow. But your true self and your true awakened wisdom within you, which you all have access to right now, that's the part of you that knows You have a sensor inside of you that knows when you're in alignment. It knows when you're in flow with whatever money, time, energy, or any other form of abundance needs to be in your life. Kate and I were talking before satsang began a little bit about I have clients who are monks who've taken vows of poverty. And in that situation, they're choosing a flow of abundance that comes in all kinds of other forms. It's just not necessarily about making money for them. Similarly, I have clients who are multimillionaires and they're in a different experience of the flow of abundance, but they too get to have a choice to either be in alignment, be in integrity with their wisdom, be in truth or not. They can go into greed, they can go into scarcity, they can identify with their money or not. It's up to them, the relationship that they bring to it. But they also can choose to be in that true alignment and flow. The last thing that I want to say before we do a guided experience of abundance is that as I'm feeling into each and every one of you, you each have an opportunity to find that truth and that flow of abundance in your life. And in my experience, I would say in general, the process of awakening, very certainly in awakening to this form of love that is abundance, there's two kinds of pathways. And one is to go into the essence of it, to sit and steep in the essence of love, of abundance, of consciousness, as we're going to do now in a few minutes. And the other way is to go through the gateway of your stories, to understand that anywhere you're tight or held up or confused about any form of abundance, anywhere stories getting activated, if you sit with it, just as I did that night in the middle of the night, and you see through it all the way, you can find yourself to that essence. And then ultimately, just as it did for me, that essence, the more you steep in it and the more you rest in it, it can inform you of what no longer wants to be in your life, the habits, the thoughts, the conditioning that you no longer need. And it can show you that you can be free to drop those stories. So, in other words, you can allow that beautiful flow of abundance to come in and through your life and let it clear out. Let it show you what wants to be released. And you are free to release anything that you no longer need. Even if it came through your family, like it did for me on my epigenetic, family lineage, even if it came to you through culture, however you got it, you are free to release those stories. Okay. Now let's see. I'm just tuning in for a second. Yeah, let's go ahead and go into a guided experience of divine abundance. And what I want to say here is that this is an invitation for you to receive what you already are. This is an invitation for you to embrace this beautiful expression of love. So take a deep breath. And I'm going to guide you through a specific visualization, but I will also really invite you to let your inner wisdom guide you through this, how it feels true for you. So take my visualizations as an invitation and see where you're called to open up, see where you're called to go, and see what you're called to receive. So the first thing I'm going to do actually is call you to ground all the way down into your body. So I'm going to invite you to visualize. This is one of my favorite grounding visualizations that also opens you up to consciousness and divine energy. Visualize a golden light coming from the sky, from the heavenly realm, and bring that golden light down in through the top of your head. And slowly, slowly, just allow this golden light to come into every cell of your head, your brain, your face, your bones, your blood, your neck, your muscles, your shoulders. It can flow all the way down and through your body. Take your time and let the golden light expand in your heart and your back, down your arms, out your fingertips, down through the belly, and through the hips, and down into your legs, thighs and knees and calves. And when the golden light reaches your feet, I invite you to visualize the golden light traveling through these beautiful roots out the bottoms of your feet and into the earth. You are connected to consciousness and divinity in and as the earth, and you are connected to consciousness and divinity in and as the sky. And your body is a radiant light, radiating as divinity. And in your own body, in your luminous body, you can feel the flows and the rivers of life force pulsing through you, pulsing as you. And this is abundance. This is the grace of God flowing as love and abundance in you, in your body. And you can become aware of the flows of life force around you, pulsing under your feet in the earth, in the sunlight around you, in the air, in nature, in the sky. And there too is a flow of love underneath all the expressions of form, is a pulsing alive presence. Pulsing with love, flowing as abundance in its purest essence. You can expand into this flow of abundance and love within you in all things, and feel yourself releasing and letting go into this infinite field. The way that the essence of divinity, the infinite, the emptiness, comes into form and creates all of life. This massive movement of creation. You are that. You are part of that. Let your cellular body feel alive in its connection and oneness to this. And from this infinite awareness, I invite you now to feel this big flow of love and abundance through you and your life. And just feel, just notice how it wants to flow and move in your life. Without hindrance, without thought, without concept or idea, it naturally flows. It flows through you, it flows as you, it flows around you, to you, from you. There's a way in which this flow is impersonal. It's not about you, and yet the way it wants to flow through you, to you, as you, is so specific to you. And there's a beautiful paradox of the impersonal and the gorgeously specific. And open your heart and your mind and your body to however it wants to flow. And then I want you to notice, just feel this and notice any insights, any wisdom about wisdom and abundance and love flowing in you, through you. Each of you has a seed of wisdom. Each of you has that awakened consciousness in your heart, in your body. Let wisdom illuminate the truth about abundance in you and abundance in your life. And if you notice anything that wants to just gently be released, even if you don't even know what it is, doesn't matter. Take a deep breath and release anything that's no longer in truth, no longer in alignment with what you truly know of this flow of love and abundance in the universe and in you. And this is something you can know always. And for some of you, this was just the beginning of a journey that you'll expand into even more, that will continue to open for you, that will continue to show you what's really possible in this life, in this form, and in the infinite. All right, amen. We'll close our meditation, my friends. If you'd like to join me in raising your arms up over your head and bringing your hands in prayer position and bowing. Namaste.